Good morning and welcome back to the continuation of the June 23rd, 2025 Council Committee of the Whole. If you happen to be watching yesterday, we didn't quite get through our agenda, so we're continuing today. We are now on item number 4.5, which is the South Bear Creek Driving Range. I will turn this one over to Chief Glavin for introduction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. Council has requested additional information regarding the opportunities for extending the life of or replacing the existing structure at the Bear Paw driving range. Our ability to modify, replace, or install new infrastructure at this site is limited by numerous factors relating it to being a former landfill, such as limited landfill records, the lack of geotechnical, geophysical, or environmental records to base decisions off of. We've worked with 3 different engineering firms to come up with a few high-level estimates if council wish to replace the driving range or proceed with the environmental, geotechnical, or geophysical assessments. With that, I'm going to turn over to Mr. DeVries for further detail.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. So some background. In 2023, a structural analysis of the safety net pole system at the Bear Paw driving range determined that all poles were in poor condition, requiring replacement within 1 to 3 years. A follow-up analysis in 2025 determined that all poles had deteriorated further and do need immediate attention. During 2025 budget deliberations, $42,500 in capital funding was approved to decommission the Bear Paw driving range, with decommissioning planned to commence this summer. So given the Bear Paw driving range has reached its end of life, there is an opportunity for the city to assess recreational needs and long-term plans for investment in the South Bear Creek area. A potential update to Parks and Open Space Master Plan could help guide strategic decisions by evaluating recreational needs, environmental considerations, and of course, infrastructure opportunities within that area as well. Should direction be received to proceed with rebuilding a driving range, it is noted, of course, as Chief Glavin mentioned, that the range is located over a former landfill cell, increasing construction complexity. There is a table of 3 phases to construction in the report. Phase 1 would be that environmental, geotechnical, and geophysical assessment. Then phase 2 would move into engineering and design, and then phase 3, the construction. It should be noted that the work completed in phase 1 would be useful in any scenario, as it would provide usable information for other future uses, even if there is no direction to proceed with rebuilding a driving range. Phase 1 and 2 costs were sourced from qualified engineering firms, and phase 3 construction costs are an estimate using a 10 to 15% of the design costs of construction, for these higher complexity projects. In summary, the wooden pole structure at the Bear Paw driving range has reached end of life. This presents an opportunity to evaluate either replacing that driving range or to consider other opportunities for long-term investment in the South Bear Creek Park area. Recommendation today is that committee receive this report for information. There are alternative recommendations presented in the report as well. Thank you.
Thanks for your presentation. Open it up to council for questions. Recognizing Councillor Blackmore.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I was interested that we received the number of emails we did in such a short time frame. I know that it's relatively easy to encourage people to send an email, but it's much more difficult to actually get them to do that. So that indicates to me that there is, in fact, a fondness and a need for the driving range. And so it seems to me that the first step is phase 1. And when phase 1 comes back and we have a better understanding of the environmental situation, that may indeed change the following estimates under phase 2 and 3. And so I would like my fellow councillors to consider moving ahead with phase 1 in this study.
All right. Thanks for your comments. Recognizing Councillor Plott.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. After hearing that, and I guess going through the report, there is an alternative in here from administration, so I'd like to just make that recommendation that committee recommend council approve $30,000 from the future expenditures reserve to execute an environmental, geotechnical, and geophysical assessment of the Bear Paw driving range. I'll leave it for that for now.
So the motion is in order. I do have a couple other councillors in the queue. So if there are questions for administration, great. And then happy to discuss and debate the motion following the questions for administration. Recognizing Councillor O'Connor.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Clayton. I really like that we're going ahead and doing phase one. However, I would like to ask administration, are we better off to look at doing geotechnical and structural on the whole site if that's and look at a master plan, and how much extra would that cost? Do we have any numbers to look at analyzing the whole South Bear Creek corridor? No sense in spending part of 30,000 when we could do the whole thing for 50, but don't know that number.
Mr. DeVries?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Clayton. Administration does have a couple of reports and information for the broader South Bear Creek area that are quite effective and helpful in terms of planning and managing the environmental risks. The driving range area was not part of complete scope for that work, and so therefore that's the recommendation to focus right now on that driving range area. So to answer the question, there are some environmental reports and information that we have that do provide some good insights across the broader site.
So you already have those numbers then, and we're allowed those in budget or not?
Mr. DeVries?
Through Mayor Clayton, sorry, the work was complete in 2018, 2019.
So we have a pretty good idea where all the cells are in the whole land site, and does that fit into a master plan for what the future could be for the whole site is where I'm going with this question.
Chief Glavin?
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I believe that we have it for two of the cells. So we have it for the northeast and the main, the former main landfill, which is west of the road, which are, I think, the two largest of the sites, which leaves the other three cells that we have some knowledge of, but not very good knowledge of. The work that we're proposing to do now would be for the east landfill site, which is where the driving range is, that would do the geotech, the geophysical, and the environmental, which would give us a good understanding of what comes next from a design perspective. I believe that the other sites are already programmed with either baseball diamonds or other infrastructure on there. We could include them for additional costs. I don't think we have those costs, but that would involve, and again, if we were looking at a larger master plan for the long term, it might be useful to do that for the other, where the other baseball diamonds are and other infrastructure. But in the short term, the site in question would be the unprogrammed space that either doesn't have trees on it or doesn't have an existing asset.
Yeah, I understand that some people are interested in putting a playground on the baseball number one, I think, and I'm just wondering if that would affect that. That's why I think it's important to look at the whole picture, but I don't want to hold up the process. If phase one, we'll take a look at the process. But thank you. I had to ask that question.
Chief Glavin, to my understanding, that playground doesn't impact anything. Is that correct?
That's my understanding as well. I believe the intent was design it so it didn't have penetrations into any potential cap area.
Okay, thank you.
Anything to add, Mr. DeVries, before I go to the next question? Councillor Bressie.
Great, thank you. Yeah, appreciate the motion. Fully support it. We need to do this no matter what we're doing, I think. But I'm curious. So, if this passes today and council approves the funding on Monday, when do you anticipate phase one being complete, approximately?
Yeah, through Mayor Clayton, depends if we sole source or tender, but we would try to get the work done within a few weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Blackmore.
Yeah, I just think that one of the things we need to be cognizant moving forward is we need some kind of communication plan for the number of people who want to know what we're doing, why we're doing it, and what they can expect following. I know that doesn't need a motion or anything, just an raise in awareness that communication, I think, is pretty important. And to express our thanks that people have come forward. We want our citizens to be engaged, and I think that this is something we need to keep encouraging.
And just on that point, I think even a sign on the driving range saying what's happening. You know, we're currently doing an environmental scan, like something really simple just to let people know as they walk by what's happening. Councillor Bressie.
So I'm thinking about what's next. What's next for this? And for me, I'm really struggling with the construction numbers in terms of we're really not basing on anything except for the estimated engineering costs. And what's really tough for me is if we think construction is going to be 1.7 million, I'm probably a no on this. If we think it's going to be $630,000, I'm probably a yes on this. And I'm wondering if there's any but I also don't want to spend $95,000 to $170,000 to get an idea within $1 million of what this is likely going to be. So is there, once the geotechnical work is done, is there any preliminary engineering work we could do to come up with what alternatives are likely going to look like? Or is there a way to scope the likely construction costs of this without spending six figures just to scope likely construction costs?
Just following on Councillor Bressy's question, geotech comes back, everything looks fine. Can't we just put the poles, replace the poles in the same place and not pay for engineering and design?
So to answer those questions through Mayor Clayton, we would still want the engineering design. It's not as simple as just placing poles in the ground like an ATCO telephone pole. They have to be engineered so that we understand the correct embedment depth. They're going to be carrying a lot of wind load, the netting system itself, and so we would want that engineering component. But what can be done is following phase one, that is new information that can then inform phase two. And so that would be ideal to get that information back to better understand and better refine those potential costs.
Just to follow up, I guess I'll ask that. So you said it's not just an ATCO power pole. I'm just curious, ATCO power poles still have wind considerations, environmental considerations. So why is it so significantly different?
So Mayor Clayton, I think one of the key pieces is that this is going up on a former landfill site as well. So that's...
Sure, but once you get the geotech back, and if it comes back that all's good to go, and there's community speculation out there that actually this is one of the original landfill sites, so it very well could just be packed dirt by now, comes back and everything is okay, why isn't it just then treated like an ATCO power pole?
Through the mayor, so because these poles are carrying such a significant load with the lateral load with the nets, they are considered a structure under Alberta Building Code. So they do require an engineer analysis and structural analysis to ensure that they are going to be safe and meet all current engineering and safety standards. So an ATCO telephone pole is not necessarily designed to withstand the same lateral load that an engineer pole did.
Perfect, thanks for that. Councillor Thiessen.
Yeah, thank you much, Mayor Clayton. I guess part of the discussion should also be is we're looking at, if we are going to reconstruct the site, is that we're looking at bigger poles. So it's not necessarily that we're going to be putting the same structures in the ground. They're going to be taller. We've had incidents where golf balls have gone into people's yards, and so the discussion is we're going to raise those poles, get bigger poles, get the nets. So I think this is just due diligence on our part, and I thank administration for doing that. Question that keeps popping up for me, though, and maybe you can't answer this until phase one's done, but Councillor Platt made a point about hilling around the new installation, if that's the direction that we went, as a potential way to mitigate puncturing the cap and placing those poles in place. I know that the environmental regulations, at least on the next report, states that part of what we have to do to mitigate the cap is through Alberta Environment is to build up the soil on top, so or just hilling on top, just exactly what Councillor Platt said. Is that a viable, cheaper potential option?
Mr. DeVries?
Yeah, through Mayor Clayton, I would still caution on not fully understanding in terms of how big and how large those poles need to be, and so therefore how much fill and cap to add. That information that will come from a phase one would help support the best direction, whether to go up or to continue to go in.
Okay, I knew you were going to say that, so thank you very much. I just wanted to hear you say it.
Councillor O'Connor.
Yes, thank you very much. Just coming back to the poles have to be taller, so that would mean an extra cost in a new net, possibly. Okay.
Mr. DeVries?
Correct, through Mayor Clayton, correct.
Yeah. And is there a possibility, let's say they determine that the cell is not as big as the whole site, is there a possibility to widen the areas so that more poles could go around the outside? And looking at Councillor Bessie's idea of hilling the outside, would that be a great way to look?
Again, through Mayor Clayton, there's lots of options that can be looked at. Of course, not knowing the subsurface conditions is the key piece, yeah.
Councillor Plott. Go for it.
Okay. So just to close, I think we have to take this logical first step. It sounds like our admin's telling us once we get this back, we can make steps from there. This just seems like a logical first step for us. So I just hope we can support this and move forward, and I'll be hoping to make a subsequent motion after.
That was Councillor Plott's close, so I'll call the question.
Councillor Thiessen in favor.
Bressie in favor.
Councillor Plott.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. I guess my question for administration before I look at formalizing a motion is, I still, and I guess when we get this report back, I still do feel Nighthawk is the right fit. And I've jokingly said to a few peers, this is a horrible thing that's happened, but in the big picture, this might be the best thing long-term for that space, and we can redesign it, reimagine it, and revision it. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for Nighthawk with what could come forward with it. I'm just curious how it looks for asking us to work with Nighthawk. I mean, I'm a big believer that I think we got to start leveraging our communities, these community groups that have a lot more potential. They've got some folks on that board that do a lot of extra legwork that are fine with just sourcing things out. So I think once we get that report back, I mean, they come up with numbers that were, I think, substantially lower than what we were going to spend as a municipality. I guess those are hypothetical, but I'm just wondering how, and I guess my question for administration is, how do we signal to Nighthawk that we want them to be our partner moving forward? And if this came to budget, how do we give them the opportunity to reimagine this space and say, this is what we're looking at doing versus us doing it? And I guess that's why I don't want to see us doing any design. I think they're the best option for us to do the design side of everything and just let them become our entity to actually fill this space and do it in the community. But is there a way we formalize that, I guess, to our CEO, Burke, or is it just let the report come back and then next steps?
Mr. Burke.
I'd recommend, if there was a desire from council for us to do that, to pass a motion for administration to work with Nighthawk on reimagining that site. I'd say I'd put some parameters around that. If that means conceptually some ideas without us spending money on design and things like that, that's work we could assist with here over the summer. If it was broader than that or moving to design phase, obviously that would trigger some funding. But this might be a chance here as we do this environmental work and proceed with decommissioning, to also have those discussions with Nighthawk and have some information available for budget in the fall. So if the expectation is just work with them, not design, that's within our current capacity. If there was interest in something more formalized and detailed and costing, I'm just unsure what that might lead to. So that's maybe where we would just have to re-engage with council before budget on if there was further work on that. So I'd say a motion to direct administration to engage with Nighthawk on future possibilities for the site over the summer.
Okay, so I'm happy to make that motion, Mayor Clayton, but let's improve. Okay.
Councillor Thiessen.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor Clayton. Yeah, I can fully get behind this motion to get Nighthawk involved. Jonathan Clarkson came in here and told council that he's more than willing to leverage whatever assets that he has and partnerships that already exist with Nighthawk to help redevelop this site and lessen the burden of cost, I guess you could say, to the city of Grande Prairie. Likely they could probably do it cheaper and maybe as good as we are with us working side by side with them. They'll still have the opportunity to leverage potential sponsors and other stuff like that. And we've seen this work before in the past with community-led projects when we put $200,000 down in dirt for the Bike Skills Park in South Bear Creek. And then old parks manager Lindsay Juniper networked the community. I think we had many sponsors, Rentco, Ernie's, everyone jumped in, and next thing you know, a $2 million project sort of showed up off the city's books, and it met all its engineering requirements and stuff like that. So these are the types of things that I think councils are always talking about, empowering our neighborhoods, empowering our people to help us develop and create spaces that the entire community can enjoy. And why wouldn't we leverage this and see where it can go from here? So thanks for the motion, Councillor Plott.
Councillor Bressie.
Yeah, I really appreciate this. I think it's just good governance. Maybe we do go through some exercises and figure out that, yeah, driving range really is the highest and best use of that land. But we're talking about a big capital investment, no matter what, I think here probably. And more importantly to me, though, it is a very key strategic piece of land for recreation and culture. And I just don't think it's good governance if we go, hey, now that we have to redo it anyways, the thing we've always done is the thing we're going to do just because it's the thing we've always done. There might be better possibilities out there. Even if there aren't, we should go through that exercise to figure out the driving range is the highest and best use. But I know I've had other ideas thrown at me. Maybe an RC place for drones and planes has been recommended to me. I've had some people say, hey, we should do some electric go-karts because you can't go-kart in town. I've had people throw out, hey, maybe you need an actual very spectator-friendly baseball facility there. I've had some, and I've also had people throw out Target Golf or a Top Golf type thing. I just think there are other possibilities there that might, at the end of the day, not be better than the driving range, but should at least be considered when we're talking about such a strategic piece of land. So we're not doing our job if we don't look at additional options here, even if we end up just doing the driving range in the end. It's just good governance, in my opinion.
Councillor Plott.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. I appreciate Ledge Services has put my motion in e-scribe already, but would be to committee direct administration to work with Nighthawk and allow them opportunity to supply a design and cost estimate for driving range space and report back to the appropriate standing committee before fall budget deliberations. My hope is that gives Nighthawk enough time that the report comes back in. They can come back and say our big shiny dream is going to cost $1 million, and here's what we think, and we can debate about that a budget. But my real hope is that they're going to be able to do this significantly less expensive than we're going to do, and they can revision the space through their eyes. I know they've done a lot of work at the Hill to try to re-envision ways they can make revenue out there. So I just think this gives them the opportunity to try to re-envision the space. I just want to make sure this motion meets my intent and that administration was okay with it as well before.
It's underneath. Right there.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. That's something we can work with. I just wanted the clarity that we're putting some of the onus onto them to come back with some of these numbers as we have with other user groups.
Yeah, absolutely. That's 100% my intent is to put the ball back in their court and let them have the dream.
Chief Glavin.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. I know from our end, we just want to confirm, and we can work with them, obviously, on ensuring that we're addressing some of the issues that have arisen that actually led to the discussion around the driving range, which is adjacent houses and balls leaving the area.
Okay. I think, I'll go to Councillor O'Connor, and then I have some comments.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Clayton. Is administration okay with having somebody else come up with a design that may or may not meet the environmental situation because of the limitations that the environment puts on?
Yeah, and that's my comment too. I don't think this work should happen until the environmental report comes back. There's no point administration and Nighthawk having conversations about building what could be until we know the status of the report. So, Chief Glavin.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Clayton. Yeah, definitely we'd want the environment and geotech to come by, and ultimately we would want final say on ensuring that it meets all the applicable regulations. It will be on city land, and we'll want to mitigate any of our liability on that.
So I think, Councillor Plott, you're good if that gets amended?
Absolutely, Mayor Clayton. After thinking about this more, I think I should be probably adding something before budget deliberations or somewhere in this wording, and I'm fine with administration helping me with the exact wording, but that it references the report we're about to do and that makes sure that they understand that report has to be fulfilled. Like, we're not going to do something that's against code, or we're not going to break any environmental rules. So I think if we reference that report in there somewhere, that's probably good enough. Nighthawk received. Yeah, I think that Ledge Services just updated it, so it's in our e-scribe now as committee directed administration to work with Nighthawk after receipt of the environmental, geotechnical, and geophysical assessment, and allow them the opportunity to supply a design and cost estimate for driving range space and report back the appropriate standing committee before fall budget deliberations. Having said that, Nighthawk might say, hey, we're not interested in this, but I really do want to signal them that we as a council would like to have them be involved in this moving forward. I think that's a good fit for us. So I appreciate the update on from Ledger.
I think that motion is in order that motion is in order. I think it's a good start. Just a couple things that when it comes back for consideration of council, what the partnership looks like. The current partnership is structured in a way that it may not make sense to continue as it is. It's shorter term. If the city of Grande Prairie is going to put a significant investment in this, we may want to revisit that partnership financially. I also think it's important to recognize that they're a ski hill, and so I would hope they consult with golf courses when they come back with a design. And we have a history in our community of having facilities that the user groups are all on board and super awesome, and then in time they come to the city to run them. So we need to keep those things in consideration when this comes back. Thanks. I see no one else in the queue. Call the question.
Councillor Thiessen in favor.
That carries unanimously. Councillor Bressie.
Great, thank you. And I did, I actually like the other motion that I thought was getting made, so I'll make that motion. And that is, I'd also like to move that we direct administration to work with Nighthawk to discuss other potential options for this land. And for me right now, it's I at least want to know that a discussion happened about, hey, is a driving range the best? I'm not asking to go out and spend a whole bunch of money hiring consultants and figuring out different options, do a big, robust public engagement at this point right now. But at least I want to know that we sat down in a room and said, hey, are there other options here? And are you interested in exploring those?
I just have a question for you, Councillor Bressie. I don't know if I'm getting the full intent to your motion. If the geotech comes back that it's not suitable for driving range, why would we sit down with Nighthawk to come up with other ideas when there could be other user groups who could utilize the space?
Yeah, I suppose if committee really wants to do this just as an internal exercise, for me, at the end of the day, it's important that the exercise happen, but I do think they've been good partners running recreational amenities at the space, and if they're not at least, if they're not included in the conversation, we're just doing that work without even talking to them,
yeah,
I wouldn't want to do that.
I just wonder if it should be broader. I just worry that you sit down with Nighthawk, and Nighthawk has a couple visions, but maybe there's another user group that has other, I just wonder if it's too narrow.
Sure. So maybe what I'd change it to then is, if the CAO was comfortable with it, was just direct administration to explore other potential options for this land. And I'll leave it at that, but say that my expectation, I'm sure it would be everybody else too, is that Nighthawk does get talked to as administration is doing that work.
Perfect. Mr. Burke?
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. We can work with that motion, though, although I will just want to have a discussion after this with administration about what that scope actually looks like. So we'll try and scope that out, because just thinking through that, that could be a fairly simple exercise, or that could be a very lengthy exercise that requires some expenditure of funds. So I think that's enough for me to work with, but I may come back with council if we think that the scope needs to be changed.
Great. And I will say for me, my intent is to go far more on the simpler side of just, are there options that council might want to invest money and significant resources in exploring particular options? Right now, I'm not looking for, hey, spend a whole bunch of time bringing back costed options or anything like that.
Great. So that motion is in order. Seeing no one else in the queue, I'll call the question.
Councillor Thiessen in favor.
Bressie in favor.
And that carries unanimously. I just had one question before we go to the next item. Chief Glavin, in the report, had identified alternatives, and one of them being that an update of the City Parks and Open Space Master Plan with emphasis on South Bear Creek be referred to the fall budget deliberations. Can you tell me about what that would look like in your opinion, and what do we have so far, and what could we expect to see if council were to send this to the fall budget deliberations?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Clayton. I'll probably turn this over to Mr. DeVries in a second here, but I think our last one was 2012, 2013, something to that effect, where we completed a master plan. It hasn't been updated. It doesn't have a lot of specificity around South Bear Creek and what we might do. So we wouldn't necessarily need a full-scale rewrite of it, but a review and then do some work specifically on South Bear Creek. That could give council some of the ideas that I know we were just directed to at a much grander scale than a simple scale.
And before I go to Mr. DeVries, then I would assume that the deferral to the fall budget deliberations would be for a consultant to do that master plan update.
That's correct.
Anything to comment or add, Mr. DeVries? Okay. All right. So seeing no one in the queue, I will. Pardon me? Oh, sorry, Chief Glavin.
No problem. I just wanted to ensure that no one's surprised. We do plan to begin the decommissioning work on that site this summer, so we'll likely put out that work here shortly for bid.
Perfect. Thanks for that update. Councillor Bressie.
I am curious as you're doing that work. The poles are just garbage. The net sure has seen better days, but I don't know if it's is it at the end of life? And if not, what's going on with the net while you're decommissioning?
Chief Glavin.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. We can assess the integrity of the net through the decommissioning process, and we could put it into storage if it appears salvageable.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I'm going to move on to item 4.6, South Bear Creek Beach Volleyball Expansion, and I'll turn it over to Chief Glavin for introduction. Pardon me? It's not Parks? Oh. Oh, my God. Chief Bailey.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. In response to the Council's April 21st direction, this update will provide information on the Grande Prairie Beach Volleyball League's request to expand facilities at South Bear Creek Park, and that's to meet the growing community demand. So would Ms. Eshaw to get us started.
Okay.
Good morning, Council. On April 21st, 2025, Council directed administration to work with the Grande Prairie Beach Volleyball League to return to the appropriate standing committee with further information regarding their expansion request. The expansion proposal includes doubling the number of courts at South Bear Creek Park from 4 to 8 to meet the standards required to host provincial level competitions and accommodate current and projected demand. The league has confirmed that this is the only viable location for a consolidated facility. They don't consider operating across two locations to be operationally feasible. Preliminary estimates from the league's engineer place the expansion cost at $297,889, with an additional $54,761 required for environmental mitigation, bringing the total estimated project cost to $352,650. The league has initiated outreach to community partners, including letters of interest and early stage sponsorship and in-kind discussions. The recommendation is that committee recommend council refer the beach volleyball expansion to capital budget deliberations in the amount of up to $352,000, with $25,800 coming from the Alberta Summer Games Legacy Fund.
Thanks for that. Recognizing Councillor Berg.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Clayton. So essentially, this is on the same park or the same piece of land as the previous discussion. We don't see the same issues around volleyball courts that we do driving ranges?
Thank you, through the mayor. The additional $54,000 was in response to the environmental considerations. So the engineer that was the league provided did do some additional work after review from administration.
Okay, and that's already factored in. Okay, thank you. If you're ready, I'll do business when you're ready.
Quite a few. Councillor Plott.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. Appreciate the motion, but I guess for me, it doesn't solve the problem soon enough. And I would like to find a way that we could let this group go ahead and start some kind of construction this summer. So I'm just wondering if administration has an option. I feel like this group has a lot of ability to get the ball rolling literally this year. If we wait till November, they're going to miss 2026 season as well for the most part, because it won't be starting until May. So I'm just wondering how we could work with this group to say, can we advance some funds, and could you start doing some of the work, and what a partnership would look like on a 10-year commitment or whatever that looks like, so they can go out and get fundraising and put signs up and all those things to help their efforts. So does administration have a thought on that?
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. We've certainly been impressed with the level of effort this group has put into to advancing this project. One alternative could be, and we have done this with other organizations, is to sign a construction agreement meeting certain criteria on environmental. and geotechnical. So we can have those and ensure that we're satisfied that they would build to our standards. I would also suggest, though, that if council were, and we could do that as of now, we can make the work to sign that agreement. We would look to council to gauge whether there's interest in providing some seed money for that project. Normally, I would say we should be last dollar into projects. I'd say on this one, I know my comfort level would be more at the front end to ensure that they were going through the required engineering and geotechnical to advance this. It would then allow to do that work and then to source goods in kind or gift in kind and other donations over the summer. I think that would be the most expeditious way to advance this, with also ensuring that they had some level of effort into this. So council setting an appropriate level of what they thought would be that seed money. Some alternatives, there is the Alberta Summer Games Legacy Fund that's mentioned here. There is some money left in the Council Strategic Fund. I'd have to get the updated number from this morning. There also then could be the Community Enhancement Fund. That wasn't in the intended set in that policy, but it does would allow for a community amenity. All of those would be in line with signing probably in the range of a 10-year lease. It probably what I would recommend, so that they can sell advertising and have some certainty. So there is an option around that. Council should set a level of funding if they wanted to proceed.
Can I have a follow-up on that? Or
Sure, I got a couple others, so don't make any motions. yet.
No, I wouldn't make any motion. I'm just curious on that, though, just so I can start thinking about forming a motion. Is there a dollar amount that administration out of this 352 would feel would be a reasonable for seed money to get the ball rolling this year on it, but not put the city at risk?
Mr. Burke?
I appreciate that, and I understand that they haven't started the fundraising, so they are starting from zero. So just to be mindful of that. Although summer season is when they get going, and so more active. I would say in the close to the 50% range would probably be where I would be most comfortable, in that 175 range. Recognizing that if we go down this path and they're unable to complete this project, there's likely it comes back to us. So I just would flag that that is the risk in this model. I think there's huge community benefit when user groups have active participation, but just I flag that is a risk with this particular suggestion.
Thank you.
Councillor Bressy?
Great. So just to make sure I understand the potential, I'm working on a potential motion that if I don't get to make, I hope somebody else will make, is you're saying something like ask direct administration to enter into a construction agreement satisfactory to yourself and the city solicitor to construct this and provide, and just be crystal clear, this group's really confident they can raise a lot of gift in kind support. They're not so confident they can raise cash, and that'll allow them to do the gift in kind support. Awesome. I appreciate that advice and direction for us.
Mr. Burke?
I would just add for context that I understand that we've had there's minimal maintenance for these facilities, and it's something that could be within their realm. We do have park staff in that location that do some minor maintenance, but this isn't a heavy burden on the city to keep upkeep on.
Councillor Thiessen?
Yeah, I like the direction that this is going. The sooner, the better. That's at least what the beach volleyball people said to us when they came in as a delegation. So I think this is a very thoughtful motion. And why wouldn't we give them a bump, set them up, and spike in a couple more courts in the sand there? Sorry for all the alliteration and metaphor, but I think this is a good news story. And if we're only putting in half the cost, I think that's an even better news story. And so I look forward to supporting the motion, whoever makes it.
Councillor O'Toole?
Yeah, I'm fully supportive of this. You can come down there pretty much any time after 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and its courts are full till 10, 11 o'clock at night. So I know that this is very well used, and the facility is looked after quite well by themselves as well as the city staff. But this is definitely a need to upgrade that facility to hold more opportunities. So thank you.
Councillor Bressy?
I'm ready to make a motion if
Go for it.
you feel ready for it. So haven't quite had a chance to finish writing it out yet, so might be a bit of wordsmithing at the end, but I would move that committee recommend council direct administration to enter into a construction agreement with the beach volleyball club satisfactory to the city manager and city solicitor, and commit $200,000 towards construction with funding sources to be recommended by administration at the next council meeting. And just speak that I don't really want to, especially given our time, I don't really want to get into picking and choosing the funding sources right now. I'd love administration to go and have a little bit of say on that. The reason I picked 200% is that is approximately, I think it's a couple $100. It's $100 light of 50% of the funding for the project, plus those enhancements about the turf and all that with the current courses. So I think 50% is where I'm really comfortable, especially if we're allowing the group to do gift and kind fundraising. So I hope that council or the committee will support this.
I'll ask you, Councillor Plott. I just wonder if it's a little early. Or sorry, Councillor Bressie. Should we just go talk to them first before we enter into a construction contract, to see if it's even feasible?
I think that's what we've been doing the last couple of months, is working with them to make sure it's feasible.
We haven't asked them if they can raise $200,000.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, if they can't raise it, then they won't have it. Then yeah. And I'm very open to discussing that amount or amending that amount. But the main thing that I've heard from that group is they want to get going, and they want to get going on not just construction, but they want to get going on fundraising right away. And I think that they need some certainty it's going to happen before they can do that.
The other thing is a question for CFO. We're going to leave it to you to pick the funding source. What are you going to pick? It says determined. It says determined. Doesn't say. It says determined by administration.
Sorry, I meant, if I misspoke, I mean recommended by administration next council.
Okay.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. I'm happy with your recommendation. I'm just curious on your determination what you're going to pick. Councillor Plott.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. I'm just curious within this, and I'm happy to support the higher amounts. Is there an ability to just advance these in tranches, so we're not just going to write a check for 200,000? I'm hoping that when we work with them, we could say, hey, you did your geotechnical, we'll advance for that. You've got another set of things, we'll advance for that. Like I'm wondering if we're really that. If it said up to 200,000 or something in there, and if we could do that in advances, I just again want to make sure that we're signaling the volleyball that we want to work with them, but I also don't want to put a lot of risk onto the city on this as well. So, is it available to do in tranches, I guess, or advances?
Mr. Burke.
I'm just thinking through if they're looking for grants and things like that, they're usually looking for some certainty. So I think the motion is fine, and if I take away that that's the sentiment, is to just make sure we have thought through some of that. I'll do that before we sign. I just I'd hate for them not to be eligible for a grant if our funding is conditional. That's my only caution in that. I appreciate, though, we want this to proceed and have some protection. So if I could take that away without an emotion, I would do that.
And so happy to support. I'm just wondering, I guess, on that, am I safe to assume that there's going to be some touch points with this coming back? Or is this just once we approve, you guys are going to go make it work, and then we're going to build volleyball courts?
I would say under this path, if it's successful, there'd be few touch points, and that the intent of this model is for them to go full steam ahead. Saying that, I'm sure we'll provide updates as they proceed, particularly if they get to a construction phase. We'll notify council.
Okay, great. Appreciate it. Happy to support.
I just wanted to clarify the amount of 352 plus 25,800, or was that inclusive? Because I'm just wondering why you picked 200 when you wanted to be 50%.
Yeah, so for me, if you read the report, and maybe I'm misunderstanding it, but that's the 350 approximately was to get the expansion, but there also is $50,000 worth of upgrades they're hoping to do in terms of, it's mostly, I think, around turf around the existing courts. So that's actually get the whole facility up and done right is about 400,000, if I'm understanding the report correctly.
Ms. Esau, you had something to add?
Yes, thank you, through the mayor. So the 350,000 does not include the turf upgrades. That was an additional ask.
Okay, thanks. Any further questions on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question.
Councillor Thiessen in favor.
Bressie in favor.
Berg in favor.
And that carries unanimously. Moving on to the municipal fee rebate, and I'll turn this one over to our CFO for introduction. Oh, Ms. Bailey, my apologies.
Thank you so much, Mayor Clayton. In the spirit of brevity, this report outlines recommended funding adjustments to the municipal fee rebate program in line with previous council direction to support multi-unit residential development. And Mr. Tarrant will take us through this one. Thank you.
Thank you, and through the chair. The council approved the municipal fee program last year. The municipal fee rebate program rebates all the development and building permit fees for any multi-family developments that are built within the city. Initially there was $700,000 that was provided as a upset amount for the program budget. In March, we were anticipating that number to go slightly higher, and so council approved an increase to $1 million. The good news has been that the development community has responded in droves, and we are seeing quite a few developments coming our way, which have pushed that number. If all potential developments that are in the queue right now at some stage of development would push that required fee rebate amount to $1.5 million. So we're recommending today, if council would like to continue to fund all the applications that are in the queue, as well as leave room for a little bit more for some additional projects to come forward between now and the end of the year, that the fund be increased from $1 million to $1.6 million. We have identified a number of potential sources from some past grant funds that have where programs have been disbanded, or there was some remaining unallocated funds, both within the Economic Recovery Fund, which was created during the COVID recovery time, and as well as from the DIG program, that there was some remaining unallocated funds within there. That together would equate to about $360,000. If there was a desire to move to that $1.6 million, there would be an additional $237,000 required, which is recommended to come from the Financial Stabilization Reserve. With that, I will conclude my report.
Thanks for that. Recognizing Councillor Plott.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. I'm happy to make a motion moving forward. There's not a bunch in the queue, but I did have a question for administration on the 1.6 if we were to do everything that is recommended. Are we going to signal and let people know that when that's done, it's done, or what's the process like that moving past this? I'm just curious how happy to see that we're getting well prescribed and that we're indirectly looks like we're refunding ourselves for the losses from these funds. But yeah, what's the plan once we hit 1.5, 1.6 to say this is over?
Yep. Mr. Tarrant.
Thank you, through the chair. So we've already started letting applicants know that the fund has, reached its limit, and that they're still able to get their applications in, but that will be treated on a first come first serve basis, and so that messaging will continue to go out to all new applicants as they come in. And if the fund is increased, we will accommodate all those that are currently in the queue, and at some point, we will have to cut it off when we reach the budget limit.
Okay, no, happy to hear they're working with industry and talking to them. I'm not sure if you got more in the queue, but I do business. Okay,
yeah. Councillor O'Connor.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Clayton. I'm very impressed that we've done what we set out to do, is to fill in where the federal government didn't help us in this process. So I'm very happy that we have had and subscribed at almost the total amount. So I'd be totally in support of Mr. Plott's motion.
Councillor Plott.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. So I'd move that committee recommend council approve the following. 1, increase the total funds available for the municipal fee rebate from $1 million to $1.6 million. 2, that the remaining $139,300 in allocated funds from Economic Recovery Fund to be allocated to the municipal fee rebate program. 3, that $51,358 from the disbanded training and marketing grant program be allocated to the municipal fee rebate program. 4, that the remaining $172,380 in unallocated funds from the Development Incentives and Grants DIG program will be allocated to the Municipal Fee Rebate Program. And 5, the $236,962 be allocated from the Municipal Fee Rebate Program from the Financial Stabilization Reserve.
Thanks for your motion. The motion is in order. I did have a quick question for the CFO. Not assuming, if this fund is not fully subscribed, where will that money stay? So the 1.6 isn't fully handed out. Where will you leave the money in a municipal fee rebate or put it back into general reserves or general revenue rather?
Thank you, through Chair Palat. So typically with most capital projects, when we get to an end of the project, if there's surplus funds, we do unallocate it, bring it back to council with our annual funding sources, or use it for one-off funding sources as required. So this would be treated similarly. It would be left there, but if the program closes and we had surplus, it would end up unallocated and available for future use.
Okay, thank you for that. I see no one else in the queue. I'll call the question.
Councillor Thiessen in favor.
Pressing in favor.
That carries unanimously. And with that, I'll call the meeting adjourned. Thank you.